It was difficult.
I mean, if you had a fire burning out on the wing for the duration of the flight, you'd be landing pretty quick smart rather than taking your time flying around trying to solve other problems.
Marion Carroll is sitting over the left wing, giving her a front row seat to the unfolding calamity.
I could see the hole that was in the wing that had been made by the explosion. And it seemed, from what I could see, quite a large hole, like about a couple of feet across, and all the metal was jagged and sticking up.
6,300 kilometers away, the Qantas Operations Centre in Sydney is getting data transmitted live from the plane. It's like nothing engineer Alan Milne has ever seen before.
Getting some odd messages of Flight 32.
When we saw the messaging coming in from the aeroplane, it was so diverse, so many systems, we couldn't just put a finger on it.
Meanwhile, on Batam Island, Indonesia, locals are finding evidence of an air disaster. The wreckage sparks media speculation that a Qantas plane has fallen from the sky. At the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, Kevin Chapman gets word of disturbing media reports. If true, he knows he'll soon be facing the biggest investigation of his career.
The Australian Transport Safety Bureau monitor media, and we were well aware through the media coverage that there was some sort of event. The initial event described in the media was an aeroplane had crashed off Indonesia.
Damn. An A380 has gone down in Indonesia, Qantas.
So we were quite concerned at that point.
Explosive engine failure has led to fatal tragedy in the past. July the 19th, 1989. A United Airlines DC-10 bound for Chicago loses an engine mid-flight. Shrapnel severs hydraulic lines, making the plane nearly impossible to control. The crash landing in Sioux City, Iowa kills 111 of the 296 people on board. Back aboard the A380, First Officer Matt Hicks has begun working his way through a growing avalanche of computerized warnings. The crew must correctly react to each and every message before moving on to the next.
Okay, I've cleared slat 1 and 2. What have you got for me now? Hydraulics.
It was like taking plates off a serving machine in a restaurant where you do one checklist and there's another one. You do that and there's another one, and another one, another one, and another one, another one.
In a training environment, you probably only do 2 or 3 consecutive failures. And in this case, I think we had 58, so it was, yeah, a lot more than I'd ever worked through before.
It's been 5 minutes since the plane's number 2 engine exploded. Qantas 32 is 70 kilometers south of Singapore and heading out over the open ocean. The pilots want to turn back, but making a U-turn is risky without knowing how badly damaged their plane is. The list of failures continues to grow, taxing the pilots' abilities to respond. One wrong move on their part could lead to one of the deadliest air disasters the world has ever seen. Engineers at the Operations Centre are also trying to make sense of the cascade of errors. Qantas 32 seems to be failing in almost every conceivable way. No one knows how long the plane can stay in the air.
It's one system after another.
My initial impression was that it might have actually been an indication problem, that the aeroplane was sending us false error messages.
What's going on up there?
Degraded pneumatics, hydraulics, electrics, power to the left wing shut down, flaps, slats, and ailerons are damaged but operable.
Dave, I need you to get on the horn to the passengers. Let them know our situation.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're just sorting out some engine problems.
He was very calm and very reassuring, and I mean, it was his tone of voice that was very reassuring.
Captain de Crespigny knows he's running out of time. The failures are mounting. His plane may soon be unflyable. He needs to get the damaged plane on the ground. That means turning around and heading back to Singapore.
Singapore, Qantas 32. We require a left turn back towards Singapore.
Qantas 32, Singapore. Turn left, heading 020.
Are we stable enough for this turn?
We'll know pretty soon.
De Crespigny takes it inch by inch, knowing that he could lose control at any moment.
It takes time to prepare the aircraft to land, to understand the aeroplane that we're going to land. But as the time goes on, things are getting worse. So we don't want to stay 1 minute more in the air than we have to.
Singapore is the largest airport within 350 kilometers. Its massive runway offers the best chance of landing the plane safely.
Singapore runway is 4 kilometres long, and we would normally need 1,800 metres to land on the runway if we're at maximum landing weight. But we are 40 tonnes over our maximum landing weight.
De Crespigny completes the turn back to Singapore. The maneuver gives the crew confidence that they have some control over this juggernaut. Making a left turn is one thing. Landing the crippled A380 will be quite another. The pilots need to know more about the damage and its possible effects.
Mark, why don't you go back and take a look at that wing?
On my way.
We couldn't see the wings from the flight deck, we can't see the engines. So Mark would be our eyes and ears to the aircraft.
After a couple of minutes, one of the pilots came out and was looking down each window. And I called to him and said, well, if you come down to my row, you'll get a much better view of the hole in the wing.
The second officer gets a sobering view. Johnson can clearly see that the wing has been punctured straight through from below. The cause of the damage is obvious. The inboard left side engine is blown to pieces.
Is it bad?
Oh, we'll be fine. No worries at all.
What can you tell me, Mark?
Number 2's blown apart, cut holes through the wing, and we're leaking fuel.
Good to know.
It was invaluable to send someone back to physically eyeball the damage on the wing, and to have a pilot come back to you and say, hey, look, this is the situation, and especially someone you trust. That's as good as you having a look yourself.
The news helps explain why so many systems are failing. Vital flight controls run through the wing. Shrapnel from the demolished engine has likely destroyed many of them.
There's obviously a lot of hydraulic components that run through the wings, so that would make sense that we'd have damage to the hydraulic system. It sort of clarifies a lot of the information that you see.
We had so many checklists, 100 in the air, that it took Matt 55 minutes to stabilise the aircraft so that this aircraft situation didn't get worse. That is unprecedented aviation history.
Knowing why the plane is failing doesn't make it easier to fly. The damaged electrical and hydraulic systems could cause an unexpected failure while the crew is trying to land. The pilots decide to circle near the airport until they can work out a plan.
Dave, I need you to run the numbers on this landing.
Check Captain Dave Evans is called into action.
3 engines, full load, all that.
He uses the A380 landing software to calculate how much runway they'll need to bring the huge plane to a stop.
The computer says we can't make it. Runway's too short.
With the 9 failures that I'd put into the system and the surface conditions in Singapore, at our maximum landing weight, I couldn't come up with an answer.
The A380 is weighed down with fuel. The plane has burnt almost none of the 105 tons it took on for the flight to Sydney.
Can we dump some fuel?
It's a good idea, but we can't. Fuel transfer pumps are down.
Damn it. Can someone tell me what is working?
The heavy load of flammable fuel means any landing attempt will be extremely dangerous.
We were some 40 tonnes above our maximum landing weight, and the heavier you are, the more runway and the higher speeds will be on your approach.
Evans tries his calculations again. The computer has assumed a worst-case scenario. He now plugs in some more optimistic numbers.
There is a belief in part of the industry that computers are infallible and you always believe a computer. Now, we've used our computers at home to know that's not true.
Okay. Looks like we can do it. with 139 meters to spare.
139 metres.